If you have been applying for jobs in 2024 or 2025, there is a high chance the role you are chasing does not exist. About 2.2 million job postings every month never turn into hires. Right now, millions of people are competing for jobs that were never real. In June 2025, employers reported 7.4 million job openings. They made 5.2 million hires. The gap between what was posted and what was filled sits at 2.2 million positions. In 2024, 40% of companies admitted to posting fake job listings. On LinkedIn, researchers estimate that 27.4% of all United States listings are ghost jobs. This is not a hiring slowdown. This is a signal system designed to look like growth, even when nothing is being built. Your effort might be real, but the market you are responding to is not. Trampling of workers' rights is nothing new. It stands as a grim monument to how the system treats its laborers, century after century. Before we dive into the ghost job saga, let's examine the history of the coal miners' struggle in the United States. Between the 1890s and the 1920s, coal companies needed workers. They needed them in remote locations, far from established towns. Mines had to be built where the coal was. That meant the middle of nowhere. So labor recruiters traveled across the agricultural South and Eastern European immigration centers. They made promises, steady work, good wages, 6 weeks guaranteed. They handed out tickets to company towns with names like Stone Ega, built in 1902 in Virginia, and Segundo, Colorado. The job postings were real. The promises, not so real. Workers arrived to find a closed system. They were paid in company scrip, not cash. Scrip could only be spent at the company store, which charged inflated prices. The houses they lived in were owned by the company. The law enforcement was funded by the company. In Logan County, West Virginia, the sheriff received money directly from mine owners to assault union sympathizers. Even thinking about joining the United Mine Workers Union could result in eviction. Between 1850 and 1890, coal consumption in the United States doubled every decade. The growth pressure was real. The need for labor was real. But the terms were designed to trap, not employ. In 1891, miners at the Tennessee Coal and Mining Company went on strike. The company fired all of them. Then they replaced the entire workforce with convict labor. It took an armed uprising before Tennessee became one of the first states to abolish convict leasing in 1896. In 1900, the Winter Quarters mine explosion in Utah killed 200 men and boys. In 1922, Congress launched an investigation into miners' living and working conditions. A nationwide strike was underway. Only 10% of the nation's mines continued to operate. In 1924, an explosion at the Castle Gate mine killed 171 workers. The industry had the weakest safety laws in the country. West Virginia had more miners forced to live in company towns than any other mining state in the Midwest region. Mining settlements were divided by race and ethnicity. Pink Town for Native Whites, Colored Hill for African Americans, Hunk Town for Eastern Europeans, Quality Hill for company officials. By 1933, coal companies finally admitted organizers from the United Mine Workers after Congress passed the Wagner Act. The companies had spent 40 years recruiting workers into a system where the job was real in this instance, but the freedom to leave was not. The posting here was genuine, apart from the promise. The job was a funnel. On October 24th, 1929, the stock market crashed. It was called Black Thursday. In October of that year, 429,000 Americans were unemployed. By January 1930, that number jumped to 4,065,000. 3 months, a tenfold increase. By January 1931, 8 million were unemployed. By October, 9 million. In May 1933, unemployment peaked at 25.6%. That translates to 12,830,000 Americans with no work. 1 in 4 Americans could not find a job. Towns posted signs along the roads. Keep moving, no work here. Men traveled from city to city and were met with billboards telling them to keep going. But some employers kept help wanted signs visible, not because they were hiring, because the signal itself had value. The signs allowed companies to gauge labor supply. They projected stability to investors. They reminded current workers they were replaceable. When a job opening did exist, 1,000 people would apply for the same position. Men wore sandwich boards with their resumes written on cardboard. One sign read, "I know 3 trades, I speak 3 languages, fought for 3 years, have 3 children, and no work for 3 months. But I only want 1 job." Industrial production fell to 58% of 1929 levels by 1932. Economic output shrank 29% by 1933. 7,000 banks failed between 1930 and 1933. Nearly 1/3 of the banking system collapsed. 9,000 of the nation's 25,000 banks went out of business. Between 1929 and 1941, 250,000 teenagers rode the rails searching for work. They hopped freight trains and crisscrossed the country. Families split up. Identities collapsed with income. Skilled professionals became interchangeable. Applications became survival rituals. The market existed as signage more than reality. In a Massachusetts study of factory workers who lost their jobs in 1931, only 40% had found regular employment by 1933. For workers in the top third of the wage distribution, the number was 57%. Credentials mattered less than timing. Wage income for workers who kept their jobs fell 42.5% between 1929 and 1933. Consumer prices fell 25%. Wholesale prices plummeted 32%. Even the employed were being squeezed. A clear case of when an economy collapses, signals become weapons. In 1787, Russian Empress Catherine the Great took a tour of Crimea. The territory had been annexed from the Ottoman Empire 4 years earlier, in 1783. Her advisor Grigory Potemkin was in charge of development. The legend says Potemkin erected fake portable villages along the Dnieper River to impress the Empress. Building facades on wheels, herds of cattle moved from location to location. Happy peasants brought in from central Russia to wave as she passed. Modern historians say the story is exaggerated. Potemkin did spend enormous sums on decorations and fireworks. One witness reported seeing Catherine's monogram lit up in 55,000 lights. Austrian Emperor Joseph II, traveling incognito, was in awe. He did spruce up existing villages, but he was not secretive about it. He openly bragged. The truth does not matter as much as the metaphor. The phrase Potemkin village became shorthand for projecting prosperity to satisfy a powerful stakeholder, even when the prosperity is staged. Resources go to the facade, but not to the system. The signal often gets cleaned up when accountability rises. So this is not a new behavior, but an old incentive structure. Here is what connects all of these. The job posting serves everyone except the person applying. It signals growth to investors. In 1787, it was an empress evaluating her territory. In 2025, it is shareholders evaluating quarterly reports. As the audience changes, the performance does not change its method of disciplining existing workers. In the 1890s, it was coal miners who could be evicted for union sympathy. Whereas in the 1930s, it was now the factory workers who were being reminded that 11,000 people wanted their position. Fast forward to 2025, and it is employees who see constant hiring announcements while their workload increases. The message is clear, a constant reminder that you are replaceable. It builds talent pools at zero cost, because as resumes flow in, contact information gets stored. Salary expectations get assessed. In 2024, 26% of companies explicitly stated they were building talent pools for future openings. 36% used ghost jobs to assess the effectiveness of their job descriptions and gauge salary expectations, all without committing to a single hire. And the person who tailors their resume, who writes a cover letter, who prepares for an interview, bears the brunt of it all. Their time is the externalized cost. The system does not count for it because they do not pay for it. This is not about whether companies are hiring or not hiring. It is mainly about what happens when the signal of hiring becomes more valuable than the act of hiring. Let me show you exactly how that works right now. Between 2010 and 2014, following the Great Recession, job openings in the United States ranged from 2 million to 4 million. Hires closely tracked those openings. The gap rarely exceeded 500,000. Between 2015 and 2019, openings rose steadily to 6 or 7 million. Hires nearly matched. The gap was small, often under 10%. In 2020, the pandemic cratered both openings and hires. Then they rebounded in tandem. Thereafter came the break. In 2021 and 2022, job openings spiked to record levels, peaking above 12 million in March 2022. Opportunities outnumbered workers 2 to 1.11 million or more, but hires remained at approximately 6 to 7 million. This relationship is continually fractured and has not recovered. By late 2025, the gap stabilizes as a persistent feature. It is not a temporary shock, but a structural imbalance. Since the beginning of 2024, job openings have outnumbered hires by more than 2.2 million every single month. Here is what that means for people trying to build careers right now. It is time theft at scale. Hundreds of applications with tailored resumes from every applicant for each position. Cover letters are flying everywhere. Interview preparation, all of it is spent on roles that never convert. In 2024, recruiter surveys reported that 81% have posted jobs with no intention to fill them. A separate survey found 80% of recruiters admit to posting ghost jobs as standard practice. This is career stagnation by false abundance. The market looks hot. 7 million openings sounds like opportunity, but mobility collapses because the ladder rungs are not real. From surveys done at multiple levels, entry-level roles make up 63% of ghost job postings, while mid-level roles make up 68%. Senior level roles, 53%. Executive level roles, 45%. The illusion is distributed across all seniority levels. What about the impact of the salary distortion? Fake competition signals push expectations away from reality. Companies post roles they will not fill, but use the applications to assess market rates. Negotiation dynamics shift based on phantom data. Another effect is the psychological impact that comes with this falsehood. Job seekers feel gaslit. The system keeps inviting applications while withholding closure. By late 2024, nearly 50,000 people have signed a petition demanding action on ghost jobs. The frustration is collective, but the deception is systemic. Let me show you exactly how widespread this has become. In 2019, there were 8 hires for every 10 job postings. By 2024, that number dropped to 4 hires per 10 postings. The conversion rate was cut in half in 5 years. According to Revelio Labs, a workforce intelligence company, 1 in 2 job postings now fail to result in a hire. 40% of companies admitted in 2024 to posting fake job listings. 30% currently have fake listings active. Among the companies that posted ghost jobs, 26% posted 1 to 3 fake listings. 19% posted 10, while 11% posted 50, 10% posted 25, and 13% posted 75 or more. 96% of recruiters use automated software to repost listings regularly. 27% of hiring managers leave job postings up for more than 4 months. 9% keep them up a year or more. On LinkedIn, 27.4% of all United States job listings are estimated to be ghost jobs. In Los Angeles, the rate hits 30.5%, nearly 1 in 3. The construction industry shows a ghost job rate of 38% in the second quarter of 2024. Corporate services jobs show a 31% ghost job rate. Nearly 1 in 3 corporate job postings resulted in no hires. Here is what companies say when asked why they do this. 38% say they post to maintain a presence on job boards when they are not hiring. 38% say they want to test the market response to hard-to-fill positions. 36% want to assess the effectiveness of their job descriptions. 26% are building a talent pool for future openings. 25% want to assess how difficult it would be to replace certain employees. 23% want the company to look better during a hiring freeze. 20% want to improve the company's reputation. And here is the critical detail. 68% of companies report that fake job postings positively impacted their revenue. 77% noticed an increase in employee productivity when fake jobs were posted. 65% said the fake postings had a positive impact on morale. 70% of hiring managers believe the practice is morally acceptable. The incentive structure is clear here. The signal works, but it disciplines labor, it reassures investors, it distorts competition. And above all, it costs almost nothing to maintain. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve uses job openings data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics to make interest rate decisions. When the gap between openings and hires sits at 2.2 million every month, the data guiding monetary policy is corrupted. The ratio of job openings to unemployed workers, a key metric the Federal Reserve monitors, is inflated by millions of phantom positions. Not everyone is ignoring this. In January 2025, Kentucky proposed legislation to ban ghost jobs outright. In March 2025, California passed a law requiring employers to disclose whether a posting is for an existing vacancy or a future one. Violations constitute unfair competition under California state law. In June 2024, New Jersey introduced identical bills in both the General Assembly and Senate. But legislative pressure is not the same as enforcement, and enforcement is not the same as cultural change. Right now, the practice continues because the benefits outweigh the risks. Between 2020 and 2024, reports of job and employment scams to the Federal Trade Commission Consumer Sentinel Network nearly tripled. The problem is accelerating, not slowing. Tech companies are particularly notorious for ghost jobs. 40% of tech companies posted fake jobs in the past year. 79% of those fake listings were still active when researchers checked. Positions requiring master's degrees or specialized certifications get posted even when there is no immediate need, just to see who is available. The platforms where this happens most, company websites, 72%, LinkedIn, 70%, ZipRecruiter, 58%, Indeed, 49%, Glassdoor, 48%. Around 40% of companies that post ghost jobs always contact candidates who apply. 85% of those companies even conduct interviews for the fake positions. 45% of companies sometimes contact candidates. 17% rarely or never contact them. They maintain the performance all the way through the process. This is not a few bad actors, but a systemic infrastructure. Job seekers are responding by building their own warning systems. Websites like ghostjobs.io have emerged as community-driven databases flagging listings that appear fake or inactive. LinkedIn has begun tagging verified listings, but more than half of all postings remain unverified. The ghost job economy inflates hope and wastes time. It clouds the data policymakers rely on to steer the economy. Until postings more accurately reflect actual hiring, workers will continue to chase jobs that do not exist, and trust in the labor market will erode. There is no tip or fix in sight because the system is working exactly as designed. When growth becomes a performance, the job market turns into a theater where applicants become the unpaid audience. In the 1890s, coal recruiters promised steady work and delivered debt peonage. In the 1930s, help wanted signs stayed up, while 12.8 million went unemployed. In 2025, 2.2 million job openings every month never become hires. The interface updates, but the incentive does not. History does not remove the motive to project false prosperity. It only teaches organizations how to make the signal more convincing. If 2.2 million openings do not become hires, the question is not just about jobs. The question is this: what else is being measured as health that is not real? This is food for thought. Thank you for watching.